Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am Sid Alpha and welcome to Line of Sight, the Exclusively Games weekly news roundup. And for those of you just joining us, this is a review of a few news topics over the course of the past week that I myself either found interesting or didn't get a chance to cover on my own channel. You know, that one that's labeled Sid Alpha that you should probably go subscribe to and tell everyone on planet Earth that you know to subscribe to it as well? Why, you might ask, would you do such a thing? Well, because of our unofficial sponsor for the video series, bacon. Yes, bacon, whether it be fried, baked, chopped, deep fried, served by itself in a sandwich, on a steak, or on a salad, bacon is the food that makes all other foods worth having. Hashtag not sponsored by bacon. In last week's video, we had one user make the statement, "Say bacon one more time," and as I'm always one that never shies away from poking the bear, bacon, 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 bacon.
Do it now, call her Betty.
You're insane.
Betty.
Betty?
Yeah.
Oh my god, it worked!
Also, there have been a few additional people, how should we say, expressing themselves and their distaste for the introduction segments to these videos. To those people that are undoubtedly growing a severe dislike for me personally, I would like to take a moment to remind everyone that I do take into account that not everyone's tastes are the same, and I do make sure we put timestamps in the description of every video that will allow you to skip the introduction or to skip specific stories if you so choose. Also, there are many other stories from Exclusively Games that don't even have introduction segments like this video that are released daily over at exclusivelygames.com. You should definitely check it out. And now that I've deliberately extended this introduction just to be a bit cheeky, let's see what's on the list. For this week, we have Epic Games Store exclusive upfront payment inadvertently disclosed by Control's publishing parent company, a French court deems it unlawful for Steam to prevent reselling of games, and Bioware abandons the already delayed Anthem Roadmap. And now that we're all queued up, let's get started. The Epic Games exclusives have been and continue to be a hot-button controversy within the games industry, with some people seeing it as beneficial, others seeing it as causing no harm, and still others seeing it as being anti-consumer in nature. The Epic exclusivity deal, as we have come to be aware, consists of two key components. The first is a guarantee of sales based upon the expected sales the game would have sold were it to be released on the Steam platform. Epic Games then promises that if the game fails to meet those levels on the Epic Games storefront, then Epic Games would pay the remainder to make up the difference. The second aspect is the upfront payment. How the precise dollar amount or how that is determined continues to remain a bit of a mystery, but thanks to Digital Bros, who are the parent company of the publishers for Control, developed by Remedy Entertainment, we now have at least a basic idea of what that upfront payment is. The website Metro initially broke this story but did not go into a few key elements that we'll discuss here. They cited in their article Daniel Ahmed, who goes by ZoogEX and is an admin for the website Reset Era, who posted a link to Digital Bros' published consolidated and separate financial statements as of June 30th, 2019. Now bear in mind, the original PDF is in Italian, and as such, I had to run it through Google Translate, so some wording may be off as a result. However, that report shows income for Control at €9,490,000 as of June 30th. On the next page, they also show that the revenue from Epic Games was also €9,490,000. We can confirm also that this was not sales of the game, as the game itself did not launch until August 27th. However, there was also a potential for pre-order income to be factored into that as well, which I did not see noted in any other news sites. But once the article was run through a translator, we can see why that possibility was not brought forth. As it says clearly in that release, the revenues derived from the personal computer version of the video game Control were significant. Yes, it is a product developed together with the Finnish company listed on the Nasdaq First North, Remedy Entertainment. The game, in different versions for personal computers and consoles, was launched on the 27th of August 2019, but the contractual structure with the digital marketplace that required the exclusivity of the video game of the personal computer version has allowed the recognition of revenues already starting from this exercise. This also grants a potential basis of comparison as to the amount of money paid up front for other games likely received from the Epic exclusivity deal, if one assumes that the upfront payment amount is derived from a percentage of development costs. Per PC Games Insider, Remedy's CEO Tero Virtala, I probably pronounced that wrong, cited the game's development costs at between 20 and 30 million euro, which makes the payment between 31 and 47% of the game's total budgetary spend. And granted, this is my own conjecture here, this makes it likely that Epic Games is basing the upfront payment at either 35 or 40% of the game's budget. This does little to change the overall discussion in terms of the individual decisions to go Epic exclusive in regards to a consumer standpoint, but it is useful information to have nonetheless, because a proper discussion on some topics cannot be had in a vacuum of information. Now, our next story involves a lawsuit in France against Valve over Steam clients being unable to resell games in their libraries. It is worth noting that Valve has traditionally, notoriously some might say, been a very slow-moving ship when it comes to most changes on their platform. A 2014 lawsuit leveraged against Valve over game refunds that Valve appealed multiple times resulted in their finally implementing the Steam refund system that we all know today. Valve also notably only took action against the rampant and widespread gambling systems made infamous by the Team Martin and Pro Syndicate CSGO Lotto scandal after potential legal action was threatened. Now, as a result of the aforementioned French lawsuit by UFC Choisir, a consumer advocacy association, gamers may well at some point be able to resell the games in their Steam library. Per the UFC Choisir website, the advocacy group had the following to say, and please bear in mind this was run through Google Translate. It is done, since the judgment clearly indicates that Valve can no longer oppose the resale of this copy or copies, even if the initial purchase is made by downloading. Valve will have to rethink its platform to allow its users to resell their content. If this decision succeeds in establishing jurisprudence, it is the right to resell dematerialized games that will be offered to gamers, regardless of the platform on which the game was downloaded. But Valve can appeal. Further on, UFC Choisir also noted some other anti-consumer actions that this lawsuit also set out to rectify, including the contents of Steam wallet funds, in which they said UFC Choisir has noted the presence of other illegal clauses in the contract that Valve imposed on its users. The judge ruled in favor of our association, declaring 14 clauses as abusive. Until now, Valve granted itself the right to keep the funds of its users when they left the platform. The judge reminds society of its obligations. Valve must reimburse Steam wallet funds to users who request it. Valve will no longer be able to own and exploit all the content and mods created by its users. The company will have to assume its responsibility when its users suffer damage because of the use of the platform or its contents, even if a beta version is downloaded. Valve is, as they normally do, very likely to appeal this decision. However, if upheld, a few years from now, Valve may well be forced to implement a system that would allow for digital games to be resold by end users. This would also set a legal precedent for other digital distribution platforms to follow suit. This will also likely to have a tremendous impact on gray market reseller sites like G2A, and there will still be a great many questions that will need to be answered, such as how a reseller market would be created to run concurrently with the market for new games, whether or not a percentage would be enforced to provide the game's developers and publishers a small amount of income, and about 1,000 other questions. It will be interesting to see also what sort of collector's market this will create for the games that have been removed from Steam by Valve for violating their terms of use. Regardless, the ability to resell your Steam games on Steam itself would also put a massive dent in stolen game key sales and the like, as users will no longer need to resort to purchasing gray market game keys outside of Steam. Now, our final story for the day surrounds Anthem being back in the news once again, and unfortunately, it's not with an announcement of new content being released. Anthem, unfortunately, was and is an incomplete live services game that has had an extremely tough road since launch. With the sheer weight of repeated controversies weighing it down even further, it would seem that Bioware has an uphill battle to fight to keep Anthem alive. Originally, Bioware announced a calendar of content starting with Act 1 Echoes of Reality that was slated to be released back in March of this year. However, Act 1 itself has still not been delivered, with only small portions of it, such as the first Cataclysm event, getting into the hands of gamers. In fact, it has been such a rough road for Bioware and such a lack of updates that the Anthem endgame roadmap still lists March as launching Act 1. In a Bioware blog post that can only currently be viewed, at least by me, via web archive due to the connection to the page timing out, Chad Robertson discussed how players on the public test server provided valuable feedback, and from that feedback, Bioware had made the following changes. combat balancing improvements, adjustments for minor to major crystal economy, additional types of reward crates providing more player choice, UX tips and loading screens to better explain Cataclysm mechanics, a final score banners to show how much score was gained from playing on higher difficulties. Now, in addition to that, Robertson also discussed how Bioware is now abandoning the axe structure they had initially laid out for the game, stating, "In order to address these long-range plans, we are moving away from the axe structure for updates. Instead, we have additional seasonal updates planned for this year that we think players will enjoy. These events will deliver challenges and chases similar to what you've seen and are built around some fun themes we're bringing to the game. As I've said previously, we want to be transparent with you that we know more work needs to be done to make Anthem better. We also want to ensure we're backing up our words with a great game you can play." So I don't have any news today to share about the long-term changes we're bringing to Anthem. What I can say is that we will continue to engage with you, our community, through PTS when we can show you what is coming. And so it would seem that Bioware, while not being able to deliver much right now by way of content, are not abandoning the game as many feared Electronic Arts might force them into doing quite yet, and there is hope for some that Bioware might be able to pull the same trick that we saw with Destiny 2 with a little determination and some good old-fashioned elbow grease. But that's all the time we have for you on this week's Line of Sight. Thank you so much for tuning in. It would mean a lot if you hit those like and subscribe buttons, and it would mean even more if you'd share this video on Twitter, Reddit, or Facebook. On YouTube, the algorithm reigns supreme, and every little bit of effort can make a mountain of difference. Also, don't forget to drop a comment down below. I do tend to read those because most of the time I really enjoy what you guys have to say, and feedback is important. If you'd like to hear more from me on these topics and others, don't forget to check out my YouTube channel over at youtube.com/SidAlpha. Link is in the description below. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I am Sid Alpha, and I'll see you next time.
Betty, 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 Betty.